Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. I'm really excited to have our guest here today, Dr. Marina Badillo-Diaz, a powerhouse in the world of AI and social work. She has a rich background as a school administrator, community mental health provider, counseling director, and now she leads MABD Consulting, where she trains educators and social workers on how to integrate AI into their work in ethical and impactful ways. She teaches at top universities like NYU and Columbia. She writes the AI Social Worker blog and has already trained over 3,000 professionals across the U.S. and Canada. She's here to break down the fears, the hype, and the real opportunities that AI can bring to the field of social work and education. So, Marina, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I wonder if we could just jump in and have you share your journey into this intersection of social work and artificial intelligence and kind of like what led you to focus on this so early. You're in on it early. It's super innovative. So I'd just love to talk about all of that.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Kim, for having me a guest on the podcast. Super excited to be here and talk all the things about AI and, of course, clinical practice and social work, too. So, yeah, ChatGPT came on the scene in November of 2022. So my introduction into AI was actually through marketing, Kim.
Okay. Interesting.
Being an entrepreneur, having a consulting business, in the summer of 2023, I was looking to revamp my website, my Instagram account. I had just finished my fellowship with the U.S. Department of Education, and I was looking to get new contracts, new opportunities. And so for me, I was seeing all these Instagram reels, put this prompt into ChatGPT, and I was like, okay, let me try it. I have nothing to lose, right? I'm doing all the things and I'm not a marketing expert by no means. So let me just try this ChatGPT and see what it's all about. And honestly, I was really taken aback and surprised. I'm like, this gave me responses in seconds. And I was like, okay, I like this content. Maybe I don't like this content. But you see that I wear many different hats as a social worker. I'm a professor. I, do clinical supervision. I do consulting contracts for schools. And for me, it was like a light bulb went off. And I was like, if this can help me make marketing content, why can't it help me with my everyday tasks as a social worker? And that's what really started my creativity, my interest into diving in the world of artificial intelligence and using tools like ChatGPT. And at the same time, I thought, wow, this is also has a lot of power and a lot of ethical things that we have to grapple with if we're going to use this technology. And around me, I'm like, but I don't see any of my fellow social workers talking about this. I really, started doing deep dives, LinkedIn, connecting with other people, not just in the social work or mental health field, but actually in education, in marketing, in business. I was just trying to get my hands on anything to help me better understand this tool, but also think, again, deeply as an educator, especially in social work, why this is going to be so important for our field and really thinking about ethical and responsible use. So that was my journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember I was already using Copy AI and Jasper a little bit for blog posts and social media stuff. And then I remember when ChatGPT came out, I was like, okay, this is it. I mean, this is like next level AI. And now, of course, it's blown up and there's so much AI stuff out there, so many tools we can use. It's just amazing. So I'm super curious, when you're leading these trainings and these workshops, what are some of the most common fears or hesitations that you hear come up from social workers about using AI in general?
And again, it's definitely coming up, right? We're all coming from this at different angles. Some are like, I'm scared, I'm worried, it is going to impact my job. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not tech savvy. I'm at the end of my career. I don't know if this is really something I really need to know about. To then those who are like, you know what, I'm curious. I've been actually playing around with this tool, but I really just want to know, am I doing this correctly? To those who are like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm using this ethically and responsibly because I can see it has value, but I just want to make sure I'm not following and doing it the right way. And so I meet all types of walks of life where they're at in this journey of artificial intelligence. But I think, again, the common fears, and I completely understand, it's more along the lines of, is this ethical? What does this mean for my job? We know that it makes mistakes. What if it's the slippery slope that we're going to over rely on this tool? How is this going to impact students, like our future clinicians or future social workers? But it's going to be like for them. But then also too, the bias that these AI tools inherently have is also a really big concern, and how, that's certainly, perpetuate. We already know that our world has all the isms, sexism, racism, classism, the bias towards the global north of what is considered, expert knowledge. And this is all going to be perpetuated by AI. And these are real conversations to have with those in the training sessions.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was listening to an AI podcast a couple weeks ago, and it was a panel of these really powerful women. And they were like, it is our mission to train AI to be woman forward. They were like, we are doing everything we can to just train, open AI to just not be discriminatory, biased against women, like all of that. I was like, that's amazing. Because it is true. The output is based on what is put in it, basically. Yeah. So the world is already that way. It's going to tend to lean that way. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So super interesting. So are there certain misconceptions about AI that you just find yourself debunking over and over and over again in the world of therapists using AI?
Yeah. So I think a big part of my advocacy and mission around this work is really that we can use these AI tools. It's really just ensuring that we have safeguards, risk management strategies in place and using this responsibly. That I think that's a big piece of what I'm trying to debunk, is not to not be aware of it, not understand it, not know how to use it. Again, I'm always for practitioner choice, social worker choice, if you want to use these tools. And at the same time, agencies are already integrating this technology. They're purchasing AI scribes, different tools for case management. So it's here. I don't think we're going to necessarily have the luxury, the opportunity to not know how these tools work. And our clients are also using them, being impacted by them. We know ChatGPT is one of the most popular uses for it is therapy, right? So we need to talk about this with our clients.
Yeah. It's really happening, guys.
I don't think we dip our head in the sand with this one.
Definitely not. So you just said like agencies are already purchasing the scribes. Are you talking about like community mental health agencies? You're seeing them already dip into this? Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know. I'm not in touch with that level or even the educational system. So really curious about that. So they're investing and going all in with it. Wow.
Yes. And I'm not even saying like all are. I think it's a trickle process. And some are, of course, I think more interested in integrating. I think one of the bigger sort of rationale is we know burnout is a huge challenge in our social work field. We're so bogged down with paperwork. It's overwhelming. I worked in community mental health. My caseload was 48 clients, individual therapy, group therapy, and yet you have to get your notes in within 24 hours, 48 hours. That's hard to manage, right?
Yes. Nightmare.
And I think scribes can be a great opportunity, of course, making sure that we are using them responsibly, transparency with your client, signing consent forms, following client determination, reviewing those notes. And you get that copy from the AI scribe, right? We can just copy and paste. But also the agencies also have a responsibility to provide training for their staff. And I think that's a big piece, that if you're going to be implementing AI tools to support with this, then there also has to be training along with it, and AI policy and guidelines for the agency too. It really has to come in a package deal to really do this work well and responsibly and ethically.
Yeah, you're not going to just turn on ChatGPT's recording function during a session.
Right. No.
And be like, oh, this makes it so much easier. That's not ethical, responsible use of AI. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. But such a good point. So I want to switch it a little bit because I feel like I'm always talking about the negatives and the cautions and all that stuff. You've trained thousands of professional social workers, therapists around this. So what are social workers really the most excited about when you see them start learning about AI or what AI can do? What do you see happening?
Yeah. So there's excitement. There's like, wow, there's so many things that this could help me do. And I remember having a couple of them in a few trainings be like, oh my God, I'm retired. I wish this was around when I was actually
same. Oh my God, I'm not even retired. I'm like, how did I live through all these treatment plans and discharge summaries and handwriting this crap, process recordings in grad school? I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes. Same. I can't think back on how many hours I've spent, even as an administrator, with program development, research, getting feedback, all these things that we had to do. I mean, of course, there's other tools like Excel and Google Sheets, but just how much stuff that I had to do by hand. And now this could be done in a matter of seconds. So I think social workers get really excited, really seeing how tools like ChatGPT could be your personal assistant. It could support you with those writing tasks. It could be a great brainstormer to really support you with, because again, you know your client best. If you know your 8-year-old client loves the movie Frozen, you know you're working on emotion regulation skills, you could put in a prompt. I'm working with an 8-year-old client who loves the Disney movie Frozen. I really want to use play therapy techniques. Give me some ideas of how can I use Frozen in this way. And it will give you some really great ideas. I think people are realizing this could be a really great thought partner and personal assistant in your work.
Absolutely. So many times it's like, oh my gosh, how did I not think of that? It's like, oh my gosh, it just, like you said, thought partner. It's so helpful in those ways. So that kind of leads into the next question. When do you see the real aha moments? Like you and we talked about when ChatGPT came out, it was like, wait a second, this is like next level. What do you see clinicians like really clicking when they really get it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's the power of the prompting. Because I've gotten some feedback when people are like, okay, I tried this, but it didn't really give me the results that I wanted. And I think initially when you don't really understand, the power comes from prompting. And the power also comes from that iterative, continuous back and forth conversation with your chatbot to get the most use out of it, that you see, okay, this now makes a lot more sense. One, why I wasn't getting what I needed before, but two, now the aha moment of the Pandora's box of, oh, I could try it now with so many different things for my practice. And I think, again, as social workers, we work in direct practice, community practice, macro work, grant writing, we do policy, we do campaigning, community work. There's so many ways of applying tools like ChatGPT and other ones as well to really help with your everyday tasks as a social worker.
You're so right about that. When sometimes I'll teach therapists and we finally get that moment, it's like, wait, I can talk to it like it's a friend and not just have to be super like mechanical and have a certain technical way to do it. I could just really literally chat with it. It's like, okay, this makes perfect sense, right? You're so right.
Absolutely. And I remember one of my earliest trainings and conversations, even with professors, right? Because the whole realm of higher education, how we're grappling with ChatGPT and tools like AI for students. I remember a professor being like, this isn't worth my time. Look at the response that I'm getting. I'm like, it's actually because your prompting isn't good.
Yeah, because you're not so good at using it. Let me show you a couple things now.
Exactly. And then it's like, now I get it now. I'm like,
Yeah, that's funny. Well, that does bring up, how are the colleges and universities dealing with this? Because I think about that all the time. It's like, do you even have original thought? And like, how do they even know if it's, I mean, I know you could tell a lot of times, but not always. So how do they navigate this?
Yes. And I think navigating is definitely the word. And I think some universities are, again, more innovative, more willing to be open into full steam ahead, trainings for professors, making policies, really giving some intentional thought about what this is going to be like for their curriculum, assignments. But this is going to be a slow to roll process. So like I said, some are a lot more ahead of the curve and at the forefront of this, where other universities have been like, okay, our policy is driven by the professor. So the professor has the autonomy to say, okay, AI or no AI. Regardless of where professors fall, I mean, we're seeing that students are using it and professors are using it too. I don't want to say this is not just, it's not one side.
Yeah, they're probably writing some curriculum, I would say, with this.
No, the professors are using it too. What my hope is that this is going to help change a whole system overhaul of our education system. And I think, for me, I think of this more as a positive opportunity. Some professors could take this as, I'm going to be like the plagiarism police and AI police. And I want to also emphasize these AI tools to screen for plagiarism if things are using or students are writing with AI. They produce way too many false positives and they're not accurate. So many universities are choosing not to use those tools. You shouldn't be using those tools as a professor. I think the best way to approach this, at least the way that I have, is if I see that students are over relying on just copying and pasting what ChatGPT is or any other AI tool, which I do see from time to time, or like say, for instance, a reference is completely hallucinated because I'm like, oh, like that article is interesting. Go to look at the article. It doesn't exist, right?
Oh, wow. Yes. You would think they'd at least check the link, but I guess not.
Right. That's right. So then we have a conversation about responsible use, what's unethical and what's responsible use. And so from my standpoint is, look, I know as students, You're going to be going into the world of AI. Part of my job is to make sure you're using these responsibly and ethically. So that means if you're going to choose to use these tools to help you with your writing, you got to look over it. You've got to make your edits. You've got to make sure that you're using APA. You got to make sure your citations, like everything is valid and real, because that's like your name and that's considered that you're not using it responsibly if you're just taking it and just regurgitating it. So, but I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done and more creative assignments for integrating AI, but we're just not quite there yet. I know there has to be a whole system overhaul and it's coming.
Yeah.
It'll take a few years.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to catch up, I guess, to the innovation. I mean,
Yes.
it's moving so fast, right? So talking about that, like the responsible and ethical way to use it as a social worker or a therapist, what does that actually look like? Could you give us a peek into your trainings that you teach when you go on the speaking circuit and all of that? Like, what are the things that we really should be doing to be responsible with it?
Definitely. And I think one of the main points and main takeaways from my training is that AI is a tool. It should never replace you as a practitioner, but it should absolutely never replace your professional judgment, your expertise, your practice wisdom, all the years of schooling that you've done, or everything that you've done. It can't replace your critical thinking skills, because that is so essential when it comes to using these AI tools responsibly. I think they're great ways to save time. It could be a great way to give you ideas, brainstorming, but you have to always review any of the content that's generated by AI, because it makes mistakes, because it's biased. We know it can hallucinate, right? All these things. And also, you know your clients best and the communities that you serve. So maybe ChatGPT may make a recommendation, but you, of course, as a practitioner, you have to read over that and just, again, think critically to ensure that really makes sense for you and your client. So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways of the responsible use is just reviewing it, editing as you see fit. And I think another piece I always emphasize and stress too in these trainings, and not just from ensuring accuracy, but also thinking about data security, HIPAA compliance. I know I do a lot of trainings in schools, also thinking about FERPA. Free tools like ChatGPT, they're not FERPA compliant for those in schools. So we really have to make sure that anything that we put into ChatGPT cannot have any client identifiable information. And that is just a rule across the board that you have to follow, because, again, we're bound by ethics that we want to make sure that we are upholding client confidentiality. So there are tools out there like Bastion GPT that are HIPAA compliant. But again, I know there's costs that are associated with that tool. But if you're going to be using the free ones, which I know are way more accessible, you cannot put anything identifiable in them. And the other piece I also like to talk about too is we have to, of course, acknowledge that there is, just like anything we do with data and technologies, there's going to be a carbon footprint. There's going to be water expenditure anytime that you're using tools like ChatGPT, Spotify, if you're going to be using online banking. All that takes in these data warehouses, water to cool those systems. So you want to think about also your carbon footprint, how you're going to offset that, think intentionally around that. And I think that's the other key piece too, is being intentional with your use and really self-reflecting on your practice. It's so easy to go down the slippery slope of, I'm just going to not think about this, copy and paste, just kind of use this to take over some of my job tasks. And you really want to be intentional and thoughtful and mindful in your use as well, so that you're not doing the slippery slope. And it's not just our field. There's lawyers that have been also caught because they've had cases that are just completely made up in their briefs, right? So every field is grappling with this, not just ours, but we have a duty to uphold ethics and confidentiality.
Absolutely. I think I read somewhere, well, at least 1.3 million people use ChatGPT every single day. And then I can't remember the stat exactly, but it was something like 100,000 gallons of water are wasted on just please and thank yous inside of ChatGPT. Like people saying please and thank you, which I do all the time. I try to be polite, you know.
Yes.
In case the chatbots take us over, I want to be polite to them. But no, but I read that somewhere. It's like, wow, this is
something to think about.
It's sometimes I'll say like, okay, rewrite it. Like, you know how ChatGPT always puts those little M dashes in there? And I'll be like, rewrite it with no M dashes. But then I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should just rewrite it myself, because that's wasteful, even though I'm using for something useful.
And I think that goes back to the intentional use. I think being really intentional and choosing, okay, this is what I'm going to use AI for. This is not going to use AI for. This is my boundaries. This is maybe for a simple search. I might use Google versus AI. And I think that's up to every practitioner. How are you going to choose to see where you fall in the continuum and how you're going to be approaching this work too?
Absolutely. Totally. So for somebody just like getting started with AI, do you have like a few little practical steps? We've kind of touched on them already, just around exploring it ethically, because I see it every day. Somebody's like, but is it ethical? I just see it constantly. So what's a
Yeah.
few little baby things? I know no
Mhm.
PHI and the free ones, the non-HIPAA compliant ones and all that, but
Mhm.
what do you think?
Mhm.
Is there anything else they could think of?
I always advocate for in the trainings is go to your governing body. So if you're a social worker, we should be going to the NASW. Now, the NASW does have a technology code of ethics. It
Hmm.
does exist. It was posted in 2017, so it's a little bit prior to artificial intelligence, but I think there's really good guidance in there, just regardless of any technology use, that they have things like we just talked about
Yeah.
confidentiality, thinking intentionally about your use, thinking about clients and their relationship with technology, your relationship with technology,
Mhm.
pieces like that. But I think another great place to start is I do have a website called the AI Social Worker.
I love it. Yeah.
On the website, I do have a free guidebook that is for social work practitioners that is for free that really walks you through ethics, AI.
Nice.
It also has a over 30 different types of social work jobs because I know social workers, we're in hospitals, we're in finance, we are in technology, we're also in palliative care. I mean, we're everywhere in schools. So I've actually developed prompts for different social work roles. So if you're like not really sure where to start, that might be a great place is downloading that guidebook. I also have a free prompt library as well. So the prompt library has
Nice.
all these prompts and these templates that again are free to use. You could just simply go onto the website, and if you want to prompt, say you're in direct practice or you're a clinical, supervisor, if you're someone who's a macro social worker doing more policy work, I have prompts in there for you. So you could just simply go to the prompt library and copy and paste. So it kind of gets you that kind of beginner mode because that's how I learned, right? I learned
Yeah.
by just copying, pasting prompts first
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
get in the groove, and then I got more confident to start experimenting, figuring out how this tool works. And then I also have on my blog just even a blog just for beginners where to start. I'm new to this. How do I approach this? So definitely feel free to check out the blog as well, where I have videos and content as well. So,
Nice. Oh my gosh, so many resources. That's
yeah.
amazing. Yes, I hope y'all go check it out. We'll put it in the show notes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So, how do you see tools like berries, for example,
Yes.
fitting into this conversation, especially around supporting clinicians who want to work faster but still be super
Yes.
intentional with their ethics and PHI and HIPAA and all that? How do you see berries
Yes.
fitting into that?
So I love advocating and endorsing for berries, and there's a few reasons why. I
Hmm.
think one is berries ensures HIPAA compliance, right? And that is something for me when I'm looking for a tool that's ethical and responsible, especially in the land of AI scribes, because this
Hmm.
is client sensitive information in counseling sessions. We want to make sure that it's HIPAA compliant. But the other thing I also appreciate about Barry's AI is that it has the function where it's not actually recording the session. It is listening in, but as soon as the session is over, it's not putting it into any database. It's just poof, it's gone, right? It goes into the wherever it goes. It's not recorded, it's not saved. And yet it gives you an AI note to then note generate. And then from there, you have the option of also editing the note, which again is what big advocate, what I'm all for is that you don't just copy and paste. You really
Yeah.
want to mindfully read it and think over it and then edit it as you see fit. Also, what I appreciate about Barry's AI too is that it has a template for consent forms. So you
Hmm.
have a PDF, you also have a Word doc that you could simply download. It gives you some guidance also how to have that conversation. But I don't think it's a great tool that it's accessible. You could use it again on your computer. You just simply have it just recording as you're going through the session. And it's very user friendly, honestly. I think
Yeah.
very user friendly too.
And innovating every day. I mean, we now have that HIPAA compliant chatbot in there. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with it, but oh my gosh, it analyzes your sessions, it gives you feedback and intervention ideas and diagnostic ideas. And it's
Yes,
incredible. And again, it's like, where was this when I was starting out as a social worker?
me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
I'm jealous
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
so, we like to do a little kind of like lightning round at the end of an episode. So, what is one tool or platform you absolutely cannot live without right now that you're
Mhm.
using in your work, in your life?
So I'm going to put two. I'm not going to
Okay.
put two in there. So one is Perplexity. It is one of my favorite
Nice.
all-time AI tools. Being a professor, doing research, and plus I think it's just a great way to double check where the AI tool is pulling information from. So I love Perplexity for that reason. It will, once I prompt, it will give me the exact websites, the links, so I can double check that information, make sure it's accurate, but also just helps me with research, right?
Hmm.
So that's what I love Perplexity for. It's been a great tool in my toolbox. Another
Yeah.
one is I'm a big fan of using ChatGPT. It's one of the oldest tools out there.
Hmm.
It has had a lot of research on it. It's one that it has custom GPTs that I've also built. So that's one of my favorite things about ChatGPT. It also has the deep research. And some of the other AI tools also have those components as
Hmm.
well. But I know I do pay for not the fancy version.
Yeah, the $20 version. I think it's pro or
Oh,
I don't
yes.
even know.
Yeah. And with that, it does give me some additional privacy settings. Now, this is not to the means of HIPAA compliance or anything like that, but it does give some privacy where my answers are not going into the data set that gets tested on. So it does have more of
Mm.
a flows of my information that I'm putting into it. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not in direct practice, so I'm not dealing with client sensitive information. I'm a professor, I do trainings, workshops. So my data is not as sensitive as, say, somebody who's working in private practice. That works really great for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Also, for my consulting in schools, Magic School AI is a fantastic tool
Ooh.
built for educators. However, us counselors and social workers, it has great uses for us as well because it has an IEP generator that you can generate IEP within this.
Oh my
Where was this when I
gosh.
was a school social worker?
Yeah. Oh,
What?
those things have got to be so tedious. I've read a few of those.
Yes.
Oof. Oh my gosh.
So that's been a game changer. Also, it has a social stories creator, so it can create a
Mm.
social story for you if you work with students on the spectrum. It also has an SEL, so a social emotional learning lesson planning template in there. So I just love Magic School. So I think those are my top three that I just can't live without. I know you said one.
That's okay. I love it. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. I've not even heard of that one. So that's really cool.
Yes.
With
Me.
Perplexity, have you seen somebody's
Yeah.
just asked me about this? Perplexity Labs just came out. Have you heard about this?
Oh, no, please. I love learning new things. Yes.
Okay.
Tell
Yeah.
me.
I didn't know. I mean, literally, I just heard about it. I'm like, I have to go figure out what this
Mhm.
is, but I thought I'd
Mhm.
ask you since you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely check it out
Go check
afterwards.
it out. There's literally something new every day. So it's
Yes.
possible to keep up with. Well, thank you so much. I would just like to
Mhm.
ask you one more question. If there was one thing that
Mhm.
people listening today could take away with them, what would you want that to be?
I would say if you're continue to learn, this is a growing process. I did not
Mhm.
become an expert. I won't even say like I'm an expert because this technology is changing all the time. Look, I'm always
Mhm.
learning new things.
Mhm.
But I think the important message is coming with that growth mindset. Just always have that hunger to learn. We know this is going to be impacting our clients, our work, society. So we got to be willing to be open minded, to do the research, to practice, to understand, to learn. Listening to podcasts like this, you're already ahead of the curve because you're interested in wanting to learn more. Keep going on that growing path and continuing to learn. I think education and knowledge is power. So
I love
it's
that.
so
Yeah, I love that. And just keep a curious mind. Just go play with stuff and just see what
why not?
happens. Yeah. You know,
Yes.
see if you like it, see if it helps you. Yeah, I love that. That's such great advice. Well, Marina, thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming today. It was wonderful to
Yes.
have you. I think this was super helpful.
And thanks, Kim. It's always great to chat with you. And I know
You
you're doing
too.
incredible advocacy work and doing all the things for the profession as well. So I just feel honored to be here with you today and having this great conversation.
Oh, thanks so much.